Hey there, everyone. This is Samuel Johnson, and welcome back to the Lyoko Retrospectives. And today we're going to be discussing episode 57 of Code Lyoko, Aelita. And we kind of have another plot episode for this time around. In this case, Aelita's begun kind of daydreaming about the day that she was brought to Lyoko. And essentially, she's just been as she remembers the day, she begins to think about her father and everything that's going on with him. As such, she begins to as such during lunch. She ends up bringing this up to the group and asks Jeremy, "Is there a chance that my father's still alive?" But Jeremy says that there isn't, as apparently ever since the end of season 2, he's been looking throughout Lyoko to find some kind of trace on Franz Hopper. But unfortunately, he hasn't found anything. So his presumption is that Franz Hopper is just dead, gone, kaput, and that they just need to move forward and move on, which is a bit callous which is a bit callous, but I'll talk about that. Aelita reacts. Pretty much Aelita does not take this well and just kind of storms out. She ends up running back to the Hermitage estate and kind of cries because despite everything, she does miss her father and would love nothing more than to have him back, especially now that she has her memories back. She wants to see him again. Odd wound up following her to the estate because he knew that she was feeling bad and the Hermitage's estate was her home. However, Aelita is still determined to prove that her father is still alive on Lyoko. As such, she thinks that maybe she and Odd can go to Lyoko, which they seem, but pretty much just the two of them. They're not going to tell Jeremy at all. Which they end up, as such, they end up, they as a result, they end up running to the factory, and Aelita inputs the timer so that she and Odd can go to Lyoko with the intent of traveling to Sector 5. And I'm assuming she entered the Scipio code as part of on a timer as well. So I'm guessing so because they do end up going to Sector 5. But when they do this, Jeremy's super scan ends up detecting that a tower's been activated. So Ulrich, and Yumi run to the factory. Of course, they can't get in contact with Aelita and Odd because, well, they're already on Lyoko. But but as a result, when all the three of them get there, Jeremy just says, "Okay, fine. Look, I'll just send you guys in ahead, and you can meet. I'll just send you guys in ahead, and when Aelita and Odd are ready, we'll contact you. I'll send them in. As he sends Yumi and Odd to the mountain sector because that's where the activated tower is, and they end up dealing with the monsters there, and they do find the tower. But in the meantime, Aelita and Odd continue traveling through Sector 5, and hitting the key to make sure everything doesn't change. Ultimately, is what alerts Jeremy to their presence. And however, once they enter Sector 5, Odd and Aelita actually encountered some monsters. And what's strange enough is that the monsters are actually a surprise to see them. And while they do dispatch of them and exit the dome, Jeremy ends up pretty much telling them, "Look, while you guys have been gallivanting and doing whatever, a tower's been activated, so you guys need to get to the mountain sector." However, once they get to the outskirts of the dome and Jeremy materializes the hoverboard, then as they fly around, they see that the entrance to the heart of Lyoko is being guarded by mantas. At which point they alert Jeremy to this, and Jeremy thinks it's kind of suspicious, so he looks into it, and it turns out that the activated tower was a distraction. Zan is actually going after the heart of Lyoko, which, yeah, that's actually that's once more a brilliant plan. Just create a false threat and then have them go after it, and then boom, go for the heart. It's actually kind of smart. As such, Odd and Aelita end up facing off the mantis who are running in, though Odd gets devirtualized in the process. And as a result, Jeremy sends Ulrich and Yumi to give Aelita backup. They dispatch the monsters attacking the heart, so everything is good. And Jeremy pretty much just says, "Look, we still got a tower to deactivate, but if you want to hit a terminal on the way out, then yeah, then maybe you can. Then I think it would be fine." And Aelita says, "Sure." As such, the episode ends with her getting the data and bringing it to Jeremy, And while that she and Jeremy are in his room going over the data, they can't seem to find anything that shows that Franz Hopper is alive until he looks deep enough and he finds a fragment of a DNA code, one belonging to Franz Hopper. And if that code is there, then that would mean that Franz Hopper is still alive and most likely still somewhere in Lyoko. And that's all, and that's where the episode ends. So I'm just gonna be honest here. This plot episode, I didn't care for it. I don't hate it. It's not a bad. It's okay. Okay. It's subpar. That's what I'm gonna say. It's subpar. It's not an awful episode. It's not. It's not awful, but I don't care. But I don't care for it either. And ultimately, the biggest problem is just sort of the confirmation. Ultimately, I think the biggest problem is just kind of the overarching plot. And this episode does kind of have as more Jeremy Aelita stuff, for example, and eh, one of the and ultimately just kind of has Jeremy be one at his most callous, if you ask me. Like one of the thing is when it comes to Jeremy, as I've noticed throughout the series, he's not a jerk, but when it comes to expressing emotions or to talk or interacting with people, he does kind of suck at it. He's more knowledgeable than he's more brain smart than he is people smart, and as a result, he doesn't really. And as a result, well, he does have. That's all. He can be a bit callous when it comes to situations and not really and can't really read the room, so to speak. And as a result, and and as a result, he can say or do stuff that may be unintentionally hurtful to someone. In this case, Aelita. As when she asked about whether her father was alive, he didn't tell her, I've been looking but can't find anything, but we won't stop looking, or it's not looking good, but we won't stop, or anything like that. No, he just said, no, your dad's dead, move on. That's just, like, really callous. Because, again, this was, while they didn't really know Franz Hopper that well, it's still her father. Even if it looked like that he was dead, and and you had proof that he was dead, at the same time, there's better ways of handling that, and giving that information to Aelita. And while he does recognize that he probably shot himself in the foot with the way he talked to Aelita, he doesn't really do much in the way of trying to apologize to her. The close thing, and I'm not and the thing is, while he does he does turn more light, while he does recognize he made the mistake, and does act nicer to her when he discovers her in Sector 5, he actually was kind of angry that Odd and Aelita had snuck into Lyoko. And I understand, it's a bad move to sneak into Lyoko without backup. That's most likely why Aelita brought Odd along. But at the same time, the only reason he wound up the only reason he turned nice and just kind of dropped it was because that them sneaking into Lyoko wound up helping everybody in the was ultimately timed precisely with when Xana was launching an attack on the heart of Lyoko. As a result, them sneaking into Sector 5 wound up disrupting Xana's plans by pure coincidence. So that was the only reason he kind of did things that things turned out badly. And honestly, if you ask me, I think it would have been better if we had like a moment where Jeremy and Aelita talked. I think what would have made everything better was if they're combing over the data, not finding anything, and Jeremy just said, "Look, Aelita, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said what I said, or I should have said it better. I've been trying my best. I can't find anything. I know he was your dad, and I know it was your dad, and I acted too heartless. And if there's a chance he's alive, we'll keep looking." And maybe even have Aelita say, "Yeah, maybe I'm sorry for jumping in head first." And again, just have a moment between them with Jeremy actually saying, "I'm sorry," instead of just saying, "Oh, maybe you could go to a terminal and check." I think the words "I'm sorry" need to have been said, or just some kind of an apology, because because there is no apology in the episode. He just kind of rolls with he just kind of pretends it never happened and moved on, which I'm sorry, I don't like. It just kind of doesn't sit well with me. And and as a result, it kind of makes it feel a little hollow. On top of So yeah, that's kind of that's a problem with the episode. It does give us confirmation that Franz Hopper is alive, but I think it would have been better if that came after if that came after they had a proper apology. But then we got the B plot, and this one is just kind of annoying. In this case, what's going on is that Odd learns that his feet really smell, and apparently everybody in the school knows this. He Sissy makes fun of Odd for it. Apparently she heard it from a girl he dated. He asked the girl about it. She confirms it. He asks another girl. She also confirms it. He goes to the nurse and she says that she has a cure for it. That she has a way of treating it. It turns out it's some kind of cream that he puts on his feet but it turns out that the cream actually smells worse. So yeah, they keep bringing it up. It's kind of dumb. Actually, rather annoying. It's kind of one of the more annoying subplots because it really doesn't add anything and it's just there for hijinks. And yeah, I know that's a problem with the show. The B plots really don't really have much significance in the grand scheme of things beyond just being kind of hijinks when it comes to the show. So I tend not to mention them, but this one was honestly kind of annoying because they kept bringing it up and it really wasn't that funny. It was just kind of dumb. Sorry to say, just kind of dumb. I don't know. I really can't think of much else to talk about in the episode. I guess. Well, again, the biggest problem for me though is the A plot. The B plot was annoying, but the A plot, it's not awful, but it does. But it feels like it doesn't really have. It doesn't feel like it was resolved properly. Again, while it is nice to see Jeremy and Aelita have some relationship issues, part of the problem, part of the reason to have those from a story perspective is so that the characters can resolve them. They can actually talk. And in this case, I think it would have been better if we had Jeremy and Aelita sit down once everything was over, and for Jeremy to just say, "Look, I'm sorry. I was callous. I have to remember that he was your dad, and you can." I have to remember that he was, in fact, your dad, and of course there would be a touchy subject, and I shouldn't have pushed it like I did. I'm sorry, or I should have said what I said, or maybe been more tactful, etc. And likewise, Alita could have said, "I'm sorry about jumping in there head first." If that when it turns out that the data wasn't, if it turns out the data wasn't, if it turns out the data at first wasn't turning out anything, and then after they exchange apologies, that's when Jeremy finds that shred that shows that Franz Hopper may still be alive. That way, there's reconciliation between them, plus hope that Franz Hopper is still out there. That I think would have been better instead of Jeremy just saying no, he's dead, move on, and then Aelita runs off, and then ultimately it ends with Jeremy saying maybe we could get some data after all. I just think it would have been better than just acting like it never happened. I think that's just dumb and it's really not that healthy. I'm sorry. It's not really. I don't really know what else to say. Again, episode wasn't awful. Action was fine. Villain plan was fine. Ultimately, it was fine. It was smart, but ultimately how it was taken down was just that the group just got lucky. So I don't know. I don't know. Again, the episode, in my opinion, not awful, but I think it was subpar. It does offer a little bit of plot with revealing that Franz Hopper is still alive and somewhere in Lyoko, but yeah. Ultimately, Aelita was just a subpar episode, so yeah. Sorry. If you like the episode, good for you, but I didn't, so sorry. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson. I'll see you next week. Take care.